Hello, I'm Danielle Kessner, and this is another episode of Paved with Good Intentions. You clicked on the wrong link again, didn't you? I think we should change green lights to blue lights, because that way all the primary colors get the respect they deserve. Welcome to another episode of Paved with Good Intentions, the show that asks the difficult questions you didn't even think you cared about. I'm Danielle Kessner, and this is my original nose. This podcast is produced sponsor-free, so thank you for supporting independent artists. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Tom Cruise and why people love to make fun of him. But first, here's a piece of random trivia. What is one of the most adorable animals on the planet? That's right, a wolf. Wolves are pretty cool animals. They have over 200 million smell receptors, meaning they can smell other creatures from over a mile away. And that awesome howl that they have, that's how wolves can find lost members of the pack. Or they can use it to rally everyone together for a hunt. Either way, it's a hauntingly beautiful sound. And now on to the episode. Tom Cruise likes to run, and I like that about him. So, the new Mission Impossible movie came out last week, and I saw it. It's enjoyable. It's a good, fun movie. You can see my other video where I talk about my review of it. It's a fun movie. It's both different and familiar at the same time. If you're used to the Mission Impossible series, it really won't feel like anything too new. But as with any release of a Tom Cruise movie, there's going to be something inevitable that comes with it, and that is the criticism of Tom Cruise, specifically his religion. People say that they don't want to see his movies because of his religious beliefs. After all, Tom Cruise is pretty much the face of Scientology. And if you don't know a lot about Scientology, there's a reason for that, as they do keep it fairly secret. Although if you've ever seen the episode of South Park where they talk about Scientology, make fun of it, and reveal some of the big secrets of it, you can see why people would be so critical of it. But at the same time, that's his choice, his belief, and I'll get into that here in a minute. Ultimately, what it comes down to is I don't worry about someone else's religion. Whether it's a celebrity, whether it's somebody I know, they could be Scientologist, Christian, atheist, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, I don't care. I really don't think about other people's religions. And for the celebrity side of it, I definitely don't care what they believe. Because I look at an actor as the characters that they play. And I like Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise makes some really enjoyable movies. Not to mention, he's easy on the eyes and he's charming as hell. So it's kind of hard not to like him in those movies. So taking him out of that movie context and trying to look at him as a person just seems kind of weird to me. Because he's got so many good roles over his career. He's got movies like Magnolia, which is overall a fantastic movie, and he does a great job in it. The Mission Impossible series, not a bad one in the bunch. I would even argue Mission Impossible 2 is entertaining. Just saying. The Last Samurai, great movie. Few Good Men. His cameo in Tropic Thunder is amazing. And then you get movies like Edge of Tomorrow. Even some of his earlier movies like Top Gun. I'm sure there's people who like that movie. But he's got quite a career of movies under his belt. And they're entertaining. They're fun. They're good movies. And he does a good job in them. He plays his characters really well. He's a fantastic actor. And when I'm watching his movies, I don't even think twice about his religion. I don't care about his religion. I don't think about it. But whenever a new Tom Cruise movie comes out, there's always that criticism. It's always coming up that somebody's going to say, well, I don't really want to see it because Tom Cruise is a Scientologist and that's just crazy. But the real question we should be asking ourselves is, why do we even concern ourselves with what celebrities believe? I mean, they might be proud and outspoken, but that doesn't mean we have to listen. We are just entitled to our beliefs as they are. Those same rights that apply to us that say, I can believe in Christianity, I can believe in Judaism, Scientology, anything, or even have no structured belief system is fine. We're entitled to that belief, and so are they. And it's funny how we treat the celebrity side of it as opposed to, people in the real world. Although we do treat people in the real world, and I'll speak a little bit on that here in a minute. But particularly celebrities, movie stars, the religion that they are is not always embodied in the characters they portray. You know, it's because, the characters they portray are specific to that story, and that person might be a Christian, they might be an atheist or something. You don't know. It could be anything, but that doesn't mean that the actor is taking their own personal beliefs and infusing that character with it. If it were specifically a propaganda film, yeah, then it would be. And there are movies out there like that where someone takes their personal beliefs, creates a film that's evangelical to their belief, and obviously it doesn't go over well typically. Battlefield Earth is a great example of where Scientology failed to become a popular mainstream idea. They took the stories that L. Ron Hubbard wrote, they put them into a movie, and it was a miserable failure. But majority of the time, the person's religion or their belief system is not inherent in their characters, especially when somebody plays like a villain who has the exact opposite beliefs as they do. It's just a character. So it's funny to me how we still have that animosity towards them, and we think it affects us somehow because it's so visible. Like, we pay for their entertainment, we pay for what they're providing, and so somehow we have a say in who they are as people. Not necessarily the stories they're telling or the messages they're saying. It's that we have a say in their belief system. And it's just strange to me that we allow that, or that we think like that. But at the same time, it makes a little bit of sense that we would do that, because let's say in the real world you meet somebody who has a belief structure that you don't attest to, you don't actually follow. Like, let's say you're an atheist and you're talking to a Christian. There is going to be this kind of butting heads going on, and this rejection of the other person's ideas to the degree of where you're pretty much rejecting the other person entirely. You're shunning them, you're rejecting them because their beliefs are so incongruent with yours. And when we do that with celebrities, it's kind of that same mentality of where we're rejecting somebody based on their religion or their beliefs, their politics, any of those, like, I don't want to say they're not deeply held, but it's the beliefs that people can develop over time. Religion, politics, those are things that people develop over time. And when we apply that to a celebrity, when we say, okay, now that this person's a Scientologist, I don't like them anymore, it's that same personal animosity that we have towards other people in the real world. And it's that extension of that personal animosity that we put into the celebrity realm. Again, because they're so visible, and we think that because they're providing us with all this entertainment, that we have some say in what they provide, what they do, what they think. And we get offended by it. And that's kind of the core of this, is we're offended by their beliefs because maybe we think that their beliefs are so ridiculous. Tom Cruise is a great example because he is the face of Scientology. And Scientology is such a polarizing religion. It's one that people don't even say is a religion. It's a cult. I've said so in the past too. But I'm not going to get into why it is or why it isn't, but there are people who strongly believe it. It does something for their lives, and that's where their heart is. It's in that belief structure, no matter how ridiculous it is. It's their choice, not ours. And the same goes for anybody in the world, any religion, any belief structure, any of that. It's their choice, not ours. We don't get to dictate other people's beliefs. And we might think it's absolutely ridiculous. We might look at it and say, your entire belief system is based on science fiction. But then again, if you look at any other belief structure that we have that's lasted thousands of years, ancient, religions, belief structures, they were all based on mythology. They were based on basically ancient science fiction. I mean, they all are. Read the stories from ancient Greece, ancient Rome. It's stories of how they explain natural phenomena is through these magical stories. So basically, fantasy, mythology, all that stuff is rudimentary science fiction. That's all it is. And eventually those developed into coherent structures, systematic religions, things like that. And I'm sure I'm going to get some anger for this one, but none of them are any different in that regard. Christianity is exactly the same because it's built on this mythology. You can say that Jesus Christ was a real person and he did all these things, but there's still a mythological core to it, and that's where that structure comes from. So, but I'm not going to get into that too much. So everyone has these beliefs, and they're all kind of ridiculous in their own way. But that's because we need religion to be ridiculous. We need it to fill in the gaps, fill in the blanks for things that science can't explain, or to answer the questions that we just don't have the right answers to. And for people who don't have religion, people who are atheists, people who are agnostic, who just don't participate in religion, they find those answers in other ways. We all find those answers somewhere, somehow. It's whatever path we choose. And Scientology is another path to find those answers. Now, for the people who do believe these things, there's a certain pride in it. Everybody who is religious, everybody who has a strong core belief system, they're proud of who they are and what they believe in. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you should. If you believe something, you should believe it with all your heart, and pride is a part of that. But there's a difference between being proud of something and being evangelical with it. So when you're just being proud of it, when you're just saying, this is who I am, this is what I believe, I support this. If you like it, great. If not, that's your choice. It's kind of passive aggressive, but it's still passive. You're not actively trying to promote it in maybe an intrusive way, as opposed to being evangelical, which is active recruitment, and that's invasive. That's getting into somebody's face. That's getting into their lives, inserting it with the sole purpose of converting them to that belief structure. And when I see celebrities, especially these Scientologists, yeah, they're very proud of who they are and they definitely advocate it. But there's not a lot of them who are coming to my door, ringing my doorbell on a Saturday afternoon saying, do you have time to talk about Dianetics? Can't say the same about Jehovah's Witnesses. But there's, if a celebrity is saying, yes, I'm a Scientologist, that's what I believe, that's not saying, hey everybody, go see my movie, because when you see it, you'll understand why Scientology is so amazing. You will change your mind, you'll go get your auditing, you'll check your thetan levels and all that stuff, and everything will be awesome. Maybe if you watch Battlefield Earth, that's the result, but most of Tom Cruise's movies don't feel like that. A movie like Edge of Tomorrow is great science fiction fun. At no point did I think, oh, this is just a giant propaganda movie for Scientology. That's not how it is. And it's strange that we are so vehemently opposed to somebody having those personal beliefs when we all do it. We all have this tendency to point to people based on their beliefs, to categorize them, to reject them or shun them or bring them in or just do that. We all do it, and celebrities are just a part of that as well. No different than somebody we meet at a party, on the street, sitting in line at Taco Bell, and we talk to them. It happens. But what's interesting is that when we're doing on a personal level, it's one thing to criticize somebody for their beliefs. You can actually have this engaged discussion, and it might erupt into something angry. It might be very accusatory and very absolute, or it could be a good conversation. There's nothing saying that two people with differing points of view can't have a civil conversation. With celebrities, that's different because we do not know them personally. We do not know any of them on a personal level, so it's a lot easier to say, Tom Cruise's beliefs are ridiculous because he's not going to come back and say, you're wrong. He's not going to come back and argue with you. So it's really easy to take that personal animosity and extend it to celebrities because they're not going to respond. Unless you send them a lot of hate mail, in which case the FBI might show up at your door and then they'll respond. But I don't advocate that route. That's a terrible route. Don't do that. So at the end of the day, the question is, why are we even wasting time criticizing someone like Tom Cruise if his belief in Scientology is no different than my belief in Christianity or your belief in Judaism or your belief that there is no religious thing, if you're an atheist, agnostic, whatever. It's why waste the energy on it? Obviously, for those of us who look at religion and say, there are so many better things you could be doing with your time, with your money, with your life, than devoting it to a rigid belief structure. You can learn so much, you can explore, you can expand your knowledge of the world. And when you're bound to this rigid religion or this belief structure, then you can't do that. But again, that's their choice. It's not our choice. We can evangelize our position all we want, but still the ultimate decision is theirs. It's their life, it's their money, it's their choice. With Tom Cruise being a Scientologist, it's his life, his money, his choice, just like any of the rest of us. And, but people will take that and say, well, because he's a Scientologist, I do not want to give him my money because he's just going to throw it away and give it to the Church of Scientology. They're just going to grow. But at the same time, we give money to businesses all the time with no idea where it goes. And it could go to something we don't agree with. Somebody could be using that to buy meth or something. We don't know. And especially tax money that we pay to the government. Tax money goes into funding stuff that we don't necessarily agree with, we don't want to agree with. But you could also think of it this way, is that the money you're paying on a Tom Cruise movie is not just going to Tom Cruise, it's also going to, a big chunk of it's going to the movie executives, because of course it does. But it also goes to the people who need the jobs just like us. There's a guy working on the movie, he's a boom mic operator, you got the key grip, you got the best boy, whatever all them do, sound mixers, all that stuff. Those are real people who, they're not getting the celebrity status. They're out there doing their job. They just, they need a job, support themselves, support their families. So the money you're spending on this Tom Cruise movie that doesn't, is not propaganda for the specific religion he believes in, your money is going to pay for those people as well. And as a way to think about it is that a Tom Cruise movie is not a Tom Cruise movie. It's a movie that stars Tom Cruise that has a cast and crew and all that other stuff. So to entirely put it on him is somewhat false. Ultimately, it isn't our place to dictate. We shouldn't be dictating what other people do with their lives, with their money. That's a fundamental problem we have as a culture anymore, is how much we want to dictate what other people think, what other people believe, what other people do. But it's not our place. It absolutely is not our place to dictate that. And at the end of the day, I think Tom Cruise makes entertaining movies. And boy, does he love running in those movies. Can't get a Tom Cruise movie without him running somewhere. And at the end of the day, it's my choice to spend money to go see Tom Cruise movies. I'll do it. It's my choice because I choose entertainment over ideology. So, I have a lot of stuff coming up here fairly soon in my personal life. I'm going to be moving fairly soon, so I will have one more episode of Paved with Good Intentions before I go on a brief hiatus. So I know you guys are going to be very sad, all 7 of you, and but I will be back with new content in a new location. So just giving you a heads up that hiatus is coming very soon. So thank you for watching. Check out more Paved with Good Intentions right here on YouTube, and you can also check it out on iTunes and Stitcher. You can also see any of the other videos I've made and anything I've ever favorited, and beware, it's all metal. And be sure to check out my podcast translation, which you can find at the link below, as well as on iTunes and Stitcher. And visit me on Twitter at Danny Kessner, or you can find me on Facebook. And if you have any questions you'd like me to ponder on the show, send me an email at translationpodcast@gmail.com. I do want to hear from you, so please tell me exactly where I can take this job. And once again, this podcast is produced sponsor-free, so thank you for supporting independent artists. And see you on the other side.